Well, hello and welcome to Zwift Live. This is our weekly community racing show, and I'm your host, Nathan Guerra. We'll be here every week about the same time and same place to cover the best of the community racing. This week, we're in with Zwift Racing League, race number 6 in round number 1. Round number 1's been going from September 10th to October 15th. Today will be the last day in this round number 1. We've got a pretty awesome race with some pretty unique stuff going on with the course today. But round 2, the registration is open. Make sure to go and register your team. Don't show up too late for that. WTRL.racing/Zwift Racing League is the place where you can find all the information about registering your team. Well, let's go ahead and bring in our co-host with the most. It is going to be Dave Toll as usual. And Dave, how are we doing today? I'm excited for this one in Scotland.
Yeah, I couldn't be better. Thank you, Nathan. We are locked and loaded. This is going to be really a frenetic 22K of racing out here. And I'm wondering, globally, Nathan, are grits a thing? I feel like that's very, very American, to tell you the truth. So we're going to have to give a big shout out to Jack Cat from OTR. Do you think he's an American?
Man, that's a good question. I don't think so. I was a part of the board of decision making about what was submitted, and then what was kind of like, we parsed them out a little bit, and then the community voted about which one was their favorite amongst the favorites that we kind of parsed out. And I believe he's not. So that's interesting. But grits are something in Scotland.
It's the rhyming.
No? Huh. It must be.
It
must. No, yeah. I don't know. So I'm showing my colors. I'm showing I'm American is what's happening there. Let's take a look at this course here, Dave. This is a scratch race, ZRL race 6, BRAEk-fast Crits and Grits, 1 lap, 22.1 kilometers, 260 meters of climbing, and we're going straight up the Scur.
Yeah, I don't know if grits are good race food or not, to tell you the truth. Never tried it, but I do know you're going to want to be really warmed up for this one, as they are going to hit out with authority here. Scur Summit South, the S3, that first kilometer. I mean, Nathan, you obviously aren't going to be winning any races there, but a lot of folks are going to be really fighting to hold on and find their rhythm. Clyde Kicker is going to come into play, climb up the cliffs out there on this 22.1K. The cliffs element is when you're talking about climbing 243 meters along the way. And then it really is a tale of 2-3 cities, to tell you the truth, because we're going to get into it. Bray reverse circuit 4 times. Nathan, there are 10 power-ups distributed throughout this 22K. The feathers, in my mind, obviously the most desirable, and you got the best chance of getting it. 60% likelihood that you end up with the feather. But then we're going to throw you into the sting is in the tail on this one, and you're going to hope that those grits are fully absorbed into your bloodstream and you're getting the energy you need for that last climb from 19.3K on to the finish. It is on like Donkey Kong as we wrap up race 6 and this great first season. Boy, it's been a lot of fun getting to this point, Nathan. So here we go. A big day of racing ahead of us here.
Yeah, 100%. Now, we've had these awesome community interviews, and this week we've got BL13. Dave, BL13 hit the scene with some awesome race tactics, actually. Do you remember that race? Hanging out in Yokio and off the front?
Yeah, that was one of the greatest. That's a top 5 esports moment all time for me. No one's really been able to replicate what they did. It was not happenstance. That was pure tactics. So those are some of the fun moments that we look back on now. Is, we really started to build a legacy with esports racing, Nathan, now that we could almost have an actual Hall of Fame with riders, and certainly great moments to remember as well. And certainly that's one of them. I've always loved BL13 is a team we used to say punches above their weight, but they always have brought a special spirit to the racing. There's a camaraderie there that's on par with or the best in the world. Certainly they're in that mix.
100%. And let's go ahead and hear from one of their admins and old school racers that's been with them from almost the beginning. He's going to talk to us a little bit about his in real life racing, as well as how he gets it to transfer over into the Zwift Racing League and some tactics that he has to employ. And it's none other than Matthew Spooner from BL13. I'd like to welcome to the program Matthew Spooner from BL13. Matthew, thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me on the show, Nathan.
So Matthew, I visited your Zwift Power and there's a big list of events that you've accomplished. You have a huge cycling background. And is it right that you were a pro windsurfer?
Yeah, so when I started off as a teenager, I lived by the coast in England and was really into windsurfing. And I competed in windsurfing throughout my teens. And at one point I was a sponsored team rider. And potentially looked at windsurfing as a professional career.
Can you give me your top 3 events and results in your cycling career?
So, my top event was actually this year. I took part in the last couple of years. I take part in the Transcontinental Race, which is a 4,000 kilometers, so 2,500 mile race across Europe, starting in France, and this year ending up in Istanbul. Out of 350 starters, I finished in 38th position this year. So, that was racing against some of the best ultra cyclists in the world. I think from a triathlon perspective, cycling has always been my strength. My best triathlon result was coming 5th in my age group in the long distance European Championships in Roth in Germany, I think in 2022. And probably the fun event that I like most is in Switzerland. It's called the Cyclotour Lac Le Mans, which is 176 kilometers around one of Switzerland's largest lakes. And the best way to describe it is it's a giant peloton of around sort of 1,000 cyclists going full speed. It's actually a bit like riding on Zwift. It's amazingly similar to riding on Zwift. And I think this year I did Lac Le Mans in 4 hours, 9 minutes. So that's like a 26 mile an hour average.
How do you incorporate Zwift Racing League into your cycling career then?
So what I typically start off doing is focusing on some of the easier races, but with a real focus on improving my short-term power and moving away from that longer ultra distance type racing that I've been doing. And I find that some of the series, the tiny races and the other sort of really short, really focused, maybe 10, 15-minute races where I'm putting myself really outside my comfort zone, but trying to build up that power. And it takes normally about a month or so where I'm seeing really big improvements, almost on a daily basis, by doing those shorter distance, high power races.
So what is your biggest challenge faced in the Zwift Racing League?
ZRL. The tactics are getting better and better that the teams are deploying. It's no longer just like a mass of all riders all going together. Teams are really looking at how do they work together? How do they, help support one rider? How do they decide on which sprints to go for? And that has really changed a lot over the last few years. And that's actually been one of the big challenges on ZRL. And so for a rider like me, who is has very good endurance, it's about how do I use my strengths, but also how do I limit my weaknesses on some of on the sprints or on some of the really short climbs, and that I think is a great challenge, but it's also one of the reasons that I love doing ZRL is that we're not all riders who ride exactly the same. We have to go and learn about our own strengths and how do we leverage our strengths and mitigate our weaknesses.
Matthew, I hear you've got some big events coming up as well.
Yeah, so on Tuesday I'm going to be racing ZRL, but next weekend on Saturday I'm racing Ironman Portugal. My aspiration is a podium place in my age group in Portugal. So yeah, that's my last big event of the year.
Matthew, it's been awesome to have you on the program, and good luck in the ZRL as well as Ironman Portugal.
Yeah.
Well, that was absolutely awesome to hear from Matthew. What a great guy. And Dave, BL13, they're such a committed crew, that is for sure. We'll hear more from Matthew actually next week on our Zwift Insider Community Racing Festival. These are the current team league standings right now. BRAEk leader at the top, no pins R3R in second place, and third place is currently with Zed Sunderpants. BL13 have had a little bit of a struggle to field a full team every week, so we do see them a little bit down the list, but we grabbed also a interview with the first across the line from last week. So we'll hear more from BL13 because Vander Laar was the first across the line from BL13 last week. So definitely still punching above your weight, as you would say, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a scratch race out here today. So this is pure bike racing, no points along the way, no FTS, no FAL. So really, really pure way to wrap up this 6-race season. But you can see, Nathan, BRAEk Elite, no surprise there. They've been such a strong team, and riders already out on course. So let's just jump right into our peloton. A lot of hungry races. And I think, Nathan,
take a look at that, Dave. Right from the get-go, the ghosts are popping, the feathers are popping. We're heading straight up the Scur. We've got the Northern Lights in the background. I mean, it is on.
Yeah, you got to say, Nathan, that I would think that the brutality of starting a race with a climb like this, again, it's not like you're climbing the Alpe d'Huez, and we do have one rider just off of the front, so already testing the metal out here. What a beautiful sky we are looking at here. Northern Lights, it's been truly amazing to see. It's one of the highlights of this year for sure, has been things like that, and the team at Zwift have been absolutely crushing it over this. Obviously, there's so much energy right now with the 10th anniversary. This has been quite a birthday, hasn't it? And Wahoo look old. They've been along for the ride the whole time. I love me some Wahoo. And in full effects, that's going to be Callum, isn't it? Callum Sharp, I believe.
Right from the get-go, Callum Sharp. Yeah, that is correct. It is going to be Callum Sharp, not Martin Nilsson. We'll see if we can change that up for everybody. But he is on a mission, it looks like, right from the get-go, Dave. I mean, he's got 5 seconds. I don't know if he's going to be holding on to this, though, up and over the top here. It's going to be a big ask to do that.
Yeah, more of a statement, I would think, to tell you the truth. So that was the first pickup of the power-ups. Yes, I was wondering, Nathan, what are the odds? I really wish I had been able to be better in math, and because statistics are fascinating to me. Like, look at Tadej Pogacar's statistics lately. Well, feather, draft, and ghost, it's 20% chance you get a ghost, 20% chance you get a power-up of the draft, but 60% chance for feather. What are the chances that someone would get 10 feathers out here today, Nathan? It's got to be incredibly low, to tell you. I mean, insanely low, one. I would think. Yeah.
And obviously then when do you hold on to them? Because that's a thing. Like, when do you start holding on to your feather power-up for the final time up and over the top of that Scur?
Yeah, and that's really one of the things, that's Zwiftcraft. And recognizing, look, there's a really, even though it's not a good chance, there's a decent chance I get a ghost, which is not going to be valuable. There's almost no way that that's going to have an impact on the outcome of the race. But a feather certainly could. And circling back a little bit, Nathan, it's going to turn into a throwdown out here today. It's going to be surviving, getting into those laps, and then that into the finale here, we're going to have just a good old-fashioned bike race to the line today, especially with the way there's really one battle. There's second and third place after the 5 races they've already done this season. That's in play, but with an 8-point advantage, that's a huge buffer for BRAEk here. So I think that the BRAEk team is really going to be freed up here, Nathan, to try get yourself a result on a day like today.
That's a great point. I think you're right. I think there's just going to be a reality that it kind of sets you free to race, well, freely. It sets you free to say, look, we don't really have to hold back at this point. And anybody wants to give a go for a stage win or a round win, you you can kind of just give it a go. Now, I think there's going to be some teams out here, though, that are going to be interested in making moves to try and make some points up. And that is, I think, going to be a team like Zed Sun. They're definitely a little bit behind in the points at this moment. So I have a feeling we will see something from them.
Fabian Davola, Nathan, was one of the riders you were just looking at there. He's one of my favorites to win out here today. The guy's an absolute monster. So watch out for him. There's a lot of talent in this group, that's for sure. Man, Daz Carter is back and in full effect, Nathan. Watch out for him. He's on that BL13 team that's come in a little undercooked. They're going to be looking to end the season with a statement, and I would certainly be watching for Daryl Carter. Again, that's BL13.
Daz Carter, I actually saw him going for a qualifier in ZWS as well. So I think he's definitely showing up to the season with some big goals in mind. And it's good that they picked him up here for this race specifically. To I think maybe a sub in a little bit here for Carter on this one. Great to see BL13 representing on this final one. They hit the Clyde kicker for the first, I think, only time out here today.
Nathan, taking a look at good to watch this here again. Power ups distributed. That's why everybody's, they certainly trusting there's more than one feather in their future. Look at that. As we take a look at a peloton that's pushing, but not ready to burst the bubble at this point. But Nathan, this Wahoo team, they've got a murderer's row of talent out here today. We talked about Callum Sharp attacking early and just kind of flexing, I think, a little bit, because that team's got a lot of cards to play with. Fernando Diaz, Christopher Anderson, Moffat Perrick, Mark Worthington, and Patrick Rather. These are all very recognizable, talented riders on that squad. So certainly that right on cue. You can see Wahoo up on the front now.
Yeah, and I'd be watching out for them as well. I mean, Callum seems to be somebody who wants to make moves today as well. Richmond's we were just looking at a moment ago here. Well, I mean, we're in Scotland for Callum, so he's familiar with the roads, perhaps, or at least familiar. It's close to heart, and maybe wants to win in the whole country.
There's got to be a little bump, right? Like if you lived in Richmond, racing on the Richmond course gets you that 0.5% of extra. As certainly Callum would love to pick up a nice win out here today, as you see him right there in the sweet spot of the group, tucked in. A lot of respect amongst these riders. They're going to know each other well now as we're into the sixth race, but they've been racing a lot more than that. Just kind of looking across the board here is, all right, I'm going to put it to you, Nathan. When we get into the crit part of Crits and Grits out here, is there a selection that gets made? Or not everybody survives in this group, but what do you think about, I guess it's going to come down to tactics, isn't it?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that section of course. I'm racing this later tonight, and so I'm a little bit invested, honestly, Dave. Like, I'm kind of like, how am I going to try and make some moves before the Scur? Because going up that Scur for a final time, neck and neck, oh, the pain is so much more real. Or, well, do you want a longer effort that, you get enough of a gap to stay away on that final climb in the Scur? And how do you make that happen? Well, I think there's a lot of tactics about using speed with roll-throughs in certain special ways to put people on edge on those 4 laps. And there's going to be a lot of speed manipulation, I think, through those loops that they're going to be doing over on the little climb through the banner and back down around on that circles they're going to be doing there, Dave. I really think that you can manipulate the pack and the speed in a way that puts people out the back where you don't have to work quite as much for it, except for when it matters most.
Well, we received an answer. Good to see. It's been a while since I've laid eyes on Michael Sweet. But Sweet the cyclist coming at us with some info, Nathan. So 0.604% is the chance.
Of course, the engineer
so
brings that in
1 in 20.
To the chat. That is so great.
Yeah, and I trust his math without any doubt. One of the all-time great people. Speaking of Zwift community, Nathan, right? Never lets you down, does it? As this is a good look at a strong segment of the Zwift community. Here's the roll through that Nathan talks about happening right in front of our eyes. Certainly one of the main instigators and animators today, Callum Sharp, right up there with his team. I'm keeping my eye on Fernando Diaz today as well. The finale suits him quite well. I think Wahoo puts 3 in the top 10 today, Nathan.
See how that one works out here. Wahoo, do they got the firing power to take on BRAEk out here today? I mean, they've been so incredibly strong. The big question is,
to be fair,
yeah, go ahead, Dave.
I think BRAEk might put 4 in the top 10. I have about 20 riders in my top 10 right now, I think, to tell you the truth. But it certainly, I mean, this is going to come down to really the strong of the strong in this race. There's no doubt about it. Is right now, Nathan, everybody keeping their powder dry here. I mean, we've seen a few attacks just flaring off of the front, but nobody is committing because I think that they realize it's a fool's errand with this group here. All of the points at the finish, through the season, you see all of the different aspects of racing it, all the way from WTRL's classic team time trials. There have been 2 of those. The points races, really frenetic racing with FTSs and FALs, but here it's all racing for the finish line. Top spots really matter. There's a bonification process that Martin has added in at WTRL, the podium bonus, they call it, Nathan. But ultimately, on a day like today, it truly is one spot matters, and that is where you finish on the finish line, rather than the collection of points along the way, which changes tactics dramatically. It really does. Without the sprints and FTSs along the way, Nathan, it really, I would say, blunts the edge of the sword for a lot of riders. They only want to, and as I say that, an attack goes clear. This is going to be an interesting moment.
Yeah, Curtis is trying to make this has been Curtis has definitely been a rider from Sisu, who's been extremely aggressive in these ways. This is a guy who just wants to break things apart. We saw this a few weeks back when we were covering the A category before. Attack after attack after attack. And we can see there, Mafatark knows exactly what this guy is up to. He's seen it time and again. Doesn't want to necessarily let him get away. And I wonder if Curtis has got the power. And look at Sisu covering then Wahoo right off the back whip. Oh, here comes Zedson, though. Zedson on a move.
Yeah, and that's really the counter off the counter off the counter. That's how days like today work out for sure. The Sisu team is strong as well. Always got to remember, not only is Alan Curtis there, Kieran Meaney, Sandek, Safanauskas, Dominguez, and Poole. But back to the action now, Nathan, as that looks like a lot of Zed Sunderpants. They're one of the teams sitting here in a battle for the top 3 spots. That's the team in black, white, and red. And the Sunderpants, Nathan, I didn't quite say that right. The Zed Sunderpants team looks like they're positioning pretty well out here right now.
Yeah, and I'm looking through
Not
here.
overplaying it.
This is a rider, Siri Pritchard. He, from my understanding, he is actually an ex-professional rider, and it was Zwift that brought him back into even thinking about being a professional rider again, actually. So I've been doing these discoveries on these interviews, Dave, and there are some interesting stories out there, that's for sure. And we're looking forward maybe to talking to Siri in the future, actually. But I think he's letting the legs talk here with a little bit of invisibility power up with the teammate going off the front as they head into those loops they're going to be doing here, Dave.
You might not find a better use of the Ghost than that. Bridging across without bringing anybody is a well-played Zwift craft move right there, and that's going to light the fuse as it looks like it's going to be Callum actually leading the chase back. They don't want to play around with these guys at all. Correcting myself quickly, Nathan, 1 in 200 would be the chances that you'd be able to collect 10 feathers in a row. So, but we can close that chapter, but that is definitely different than 1 in 20. So here we go now, picking up the action. It is really hotting up right now, Nathan. All right, I love these moments. We still got a lot of racing ahead of us, but we talked about will a selection be made. If this doesn't do that, then I don't know what would, as these guys are really throwing down right now.
Mayer over the top. Nice little kick from him. Then goes into less power, actually. Interesting that he dropped the power so much. He's up over 57 kilometers per hour. He can actually get into a super tuck for a moment there. Didn't think it was worth it, it seems now. And now is when they're going to start these crit loops.
Yeah, I mean, really kind of kicked the hornet's hive right there, Nathan, as it did shake a few riders out the back, didn't it? I mean, I don't know, maybe 5 riders. We'll get a look at that. So not everyone survived, like the grain through the thresher there, but most, I mean, all of the heavy hitters knew what was coming. Just getting out in front of that, positioning yourself well in the group would have said Daz Carter, Nathan, coming back up into the group. So there's a rider just maybe getting caught on his heels a little bit.
He's got a good kick, Daz. You know, when Daz, you know, he's not, I'm not sure that he's got just the raw power to take these guys on all together, but I think he is the kind of rider who's got the tactics, he's got the know-how, and he can start making things happen. Now moving off the front here again, it looks like that's going to be Archibald Fernando Diaz. Now the moves are good. This is what I was talking about. It's going to be about these attacks over the top and then the reset into the roll through speed and using that correctly, then right back into a climb again, then the roll over the top with the power, the reset again, over and over again, just like in real life crit racing, Dave. I love this course submitted by the community.
Yeah, in no way, Nathan, do you get these monsters together and have them roll around like a charity ride up until the last 3K. They were out here to have at it, and they do not disappoint. As we take a look here at, I mean, it'd be really interesting, Nathan, to see if that 8-10 rider group could get together and get some kind of a gap out here and start rolling away with those points if the cream rises to the top.
Well, we're in with keeping it calm so far, Ronald Vander Laar, actually. And I haven't seen him make a move just yet. In his interview, we'll show that in just a second, he said he likes to make the race hard from the get-go and is not interested in a sprint. We'll see how things work out with him today. Let's go ahead and hear from Ronald as we can, because I have a feeling, Dave, that things are only going to get hotter and hotter here all the way to the Scur. So, Ronald, for the viewers, what is your in real life cycling experience and Zwift experience?
In real life cycling experience, go back to the youth. I started when I was 11 years old. Did many years of road racing with a club called Jan van Arkel. That's also the local club where Fabio Jacobs cycled and shoot bucks. And that become a little bit more serious during the years, and that's where I end up now. Do a lot of road racing, MTB, marathons, gravel racing, all that kind of.
Can you take us through how you won that last race for the first across the line?
Oh, yeah, that was the descent of the Epicom that made the turning point, I guess. It gave me a little gap. At first, I thought it will be suicide because the level in this division is very high. Hanging on my last breath and power on the grade, on the top of the grade. Yeah,
you only won by 1 second over George, and then Siri was only a little ways back. So were they chasing you and were you away? Or did you break and get that 1 second?
Yeah, I get to the last final case with 2 other riders, but the group behind me were closing up really hard. So I have to time very well. I get a few seconds. I kept driving, kept cycling, kept pushing, and managed to stay away.
Ronald, how would you describe your riding style, and how's it contributed to the results in your season?
Attacker. I'm not waiting until the sprint. I'm not that good in sprinting in Zwift. To wait until that key moment and have that right draft, and you have to push on the right moment. And I don't like that very well, so I'm much more an attacker. I like to set the course, making the course hard. I really like that. That's my style. I'm not busy with the final 300 meters. I'm more like right from the beginning. Let's set up the pace and let's see how things go.
I noticed that you were doing a test for Zwift World Series. It looked like. Are you looking to get into the top level of elite racing on Zwift?
Yeah, I love to. Yes. I would like to. I'd love to stretch myself out and push myself to and over the limit. If I could manage it to the World Series, yeah, that would be awesome. To the qualifier then. I first have to qualify.
If the Watopia Game Master could offer you one thing to your heart's desire, what would it be?
I think very hard on that. But I think he does a very good job because it's the most favorite world. He's always there. But if he could add one, I think if it could, it would be some cycling cafes where people can meet and watch some road cycling in real life. Some kind of that. But if it's possible, Zwift is based on having some social contacts with the messages, with all that kind of stuff. But if you have a place where you can meet, like a cafe or something like that, yeah, I was thinking about that. But if it's possible, yeah, I think Utopia is a very nice layout, and he's doing a good job.
So good to hear from Ronald. Dave, I like how he said, I like to stress myself out, and I think that might be happening right now. No stops at the cafe, I think, as they make their rounds out here. It's been a lot of attacks, but nobody's able to get away. I love hearing this guy's ridden, it sounds like with Fabio Jakobsen, or at least with the club. Sounds like really from a young age involved in one of the countries that has one of the deepest cycling cultures and are just kind of the hard men of cycling, to be honest.
Well, I mean, you just said it, Nathan. When you talk about deep cycling culture, if you're an American, one of our viewers today, and you've never been, and you love bikes, and you've never been over to Europe, in particular, I would say the Netherlands, do yourself or Belgium, both. To tell you the truth, don't sell yourself short. Make the whole trip. Go to France, go to Italy, go to Spain. But I tell you, the way it's just so inbred in that culture, and when you love bikes, it feels amazing to see it done so well. And yeah, I like his idea of cycle cafe. He's kind of breaking down the fourth wall, as we were talking about. But that's exactly what a prototypical Zwift racer, I like to imagine them as. Someone who seems to be really getting the most out of it, with ambition, respect for the craft. And yeah, I mean, it feels good to be at this place. So Nathan, I think my assessment of the respect in this group, these riders really realize that it's going to be a rough finale. A lot of talent spread out amongst our peloton right now. I would say 90% survival rate, which is pretty darn good with you. Look at the way we started this race, going right into the Scur Summit South. This has been a big test. Only 22K of racing, but we're going to be, when this kicks off, Nathan, we haven't seen anything quite like this season.
It's all coming down to the Scur. Nobody's been able to get away here. We see the power-ups over and over again. The risks haven't been that high, though, it seems to me. I haven't seen anybody really take a crazy run off the front. I mean, we've been staying with it. There's been a couple of moves here, but this pack has just been able to roll through, Dave, over and over again to bring everything right on back into the fold. So going to be a tough one to get away, it looks like, at this point. But there is a lot of climbing left in the race, though. They will climb over toward the Scur and then make their way up the Scur. So I have a feeling, Dave, there's still some opportunity if somebody wants to make a move before it's just an all-out climb up a wall.
Haven't shouted out Ed Bentley yet today, Nathan. Ed, the Zed Sunderpants team. You know, I don't know if it's possible, Nathan, but that battle between second and third, this is close enough. And talking about on the season now, after the 5 races that they've already done, that probably is where the heat map should be focusing on with the racing today, as that is completely in jeopardy. When you look at second and third, the outright season champion squad has a nice buffer out here. And we talked about the fact, and just looking at the peloton and positioning right now, everybody really trusting the process here. Nathan, but BRAEk comes into this one with nothing to lose.
Yeah, it's a good call there for sure. Now, as far as comparisons go, and coming up and over the top of the climb, we're talking about, what is this climb? I think it's only going to take them like 2 minutes tops, not even, maybe a minute and a half. Is it a 90-second climb or something like that? I mean, it's a pretty quick one. We do see Curtis now trying to make a move again, unable to get much of anywhere. So, I think this is kind of almost where the effort begins a little bit as they make their climb up toward the climb.
And you can see it, Nathan. I think the complexion of the group is starting to change now. It's getting a little bit harder to hold your position here. And I think we're going to start seeing some attacks going clear. As a matter of fact, I think it's going to kick off right here, right now.
Now, the riders are just going underneath those Scotty the Squirrels here. And I just wanted to get a shot, if we could here. There's the lead of the just coming out from under the castle and off into this beginning of the rolling hills upward toward the Scur, where they started at those pens, Dave, and they're heading back toward those pens. It's all together. We saw one rider kind of off the front there for a moment, little bit of a S bend here for a moment, uphill into a 1% gradient, and back on the front it is going to be John Middelf now heading to the front as well. Callum Sharp, but everyone, it's changing up a lot toward the front there. 5 watts per kilogram, 5.4. These are steady numbers here, Dave. They're really pressing on, though. They're not full-on attacks, but they're definitely high-end numbers here to keep the pace high, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Alan Curtis from Sisu, Nathan, he's doing a lot of work holding on to positioning, being in the right place at the right time. Seems to be his plan, because Curtis has really got the bit between the teeth now. Little bit of gaps opening up at the back. Not really, though. I take that back. It looks like not quite yet. It's like a ticking time bomb out here.
Yeah, 5.1, 5.4 at the front. Fernando Diaz now, 386 watts. So, I mean, definitely FTP threshold type efforts. These guys at this level, they can hold this for quite a long time, 10 minutes to an hour or so, I would expect, for a lot of these riders for this kind of an effort here. So setting the pace again, it's going to be A. Curtis now to the front. Sisu taking over. Again, it's through the pens area here. They're going to go underneath the banner. Perhaps now we see some ghost power-ups. We see some draft power-ups being thrown down. Only reason to be using those at this point, you don't got a feather, and you're looking for one through this final banner because it's a left-hand turn and straight up to the finish line.
And if you want to talk about gambling with power-ups, Nathan, now is when if you've got a feather, you definitely don't give that up. It's going to be the difference maker. Alan Curtis starting to stretch his legs a little bit. Diaz is going to get up onto that wheel. All right, Nathan, I mean, if you look at the back of this peloton, there is some damage being done as they are now ready to start swinging with that 20-pound sledgehammer. Alan Curtis has been so active out here.
Yeah, Curtis here, definitely one that has been setting the pace, but is it too much too soon? Is he wasting the effort he needs to? Left-hand turn here and right into the climb. Archibald set up well, it looks like, there for no pins. R3R sitting about 10th wheel or so. Now moving to the front. It's going to be still Sisu taking over. Here comes Zedson. Zedson on the move. Who is that from Zedson taking over toward the front? That's going to be Glass. Glass here from Zedson now taking the first little hit out.
Yeah, and I mean, they're still covering these. No one able to get any kind of separation. Curtis's teammates from Sisu, they're in the white and blue. I mean, they were able to lay back just a little bit. It looks like there's going to be a bit of a changing of the guard going on. And look at all those feather power-ups popping here now.
Is that a little bit early for some of them? I think those are hang-on power-ups here at this point, because I think, Dave, with the 30 seconds or so, they've got more than that to go here at this point. So I think that was a little bit early for some of these riders to be throwing down those power-ups. Sisu now to the front. Here comes Deepak up over the top. Wahoo are there as well now. It's going to be Diaz back to the front with Wahoo. Wahoo now sitting on front wheel, but Dave, now this goes to 2% gradient. If you are sitting third or fourth wheel at this point, you've set yourself up absolutely perfectly. Here comes the second round of power-ups. These are the real sprints for the line, I think, as they start to open things up.
Yeah, I hate to say it, maybe a little bit of an itchy trigger finger there, or not trusting in yourself, because now is when it matters, and this is it. Safranauskas, this is going to be George hitting out. Nathan, it is on like Donkey Kong here in race 6, and Sisu paying off of that Alan Curtis work. The counterattack goes, and it goes big.
And it looks like George is taking this one down almost easily. He had the headphones on. The music was rocking. Davola around for third, it looks like. Morel for fourth, I believe it is. We'll take a look at the replay in a little bit here. But George Safranoskis takes it down. I mean, that kick, nobody was even to be seen, Dave.
Yeah, wow. I would love to see what those numbers look like when he lights that fuse. It was lights out at that point.
Nicely done from Sisu. And that gives you an idea here of what this race is like out here today. Dave, what do you think? I mean, that was a pretty cool course, honestly. One of the better ones that I've seen out here. Rebel Route was kind of where this submission idea had started from Zwift Insider. And now with the submission here coming in from the community, I think they put something pretty cool together here.
Yeah, I mean, that valued contribution really paid off for us here in the final race. Nathan, have you seen a race in a long time? I mean, what's a better way to phrase this question? I haven't seen a race wait that deep, that much patience from the peloton than what we saw here today, possibly ever, to tell you the truth, with so much on the line here in our ZRL final. Yeah, that was really amazing.
They definitely were patient for that. I thought we were going to see a couple of more moves.
There was no,
honestly, I really did.
Yeah, there was no attack to chase back. When's the last time we saw that?
Yeah, interesting. And this is a little bit of a replay here, Dave. And George making that move, and it was just over. And I think they kind of slept on it, Dave. I think they kind of slept on it is what happened there. I think there was a response to this that could have come, and they just kind of did not, pay enough attention, because when he went, nobody was popping any numbers in order to get a response going.
Surprising, to tell you the truth, that they would get caught out like that. But a worthy winner, without any question, for George and Sisu out here. So, yeah, very, very interesting finale on an interesting course.
Yeah,
thank you to Big Jack Cat from OTR for that contribution. As we take a look at the win proper right there, it does become interesting. Team sport out here. All the points matter. And what an interesting group in that top 10. I don't have a thumbnail sketch right now to give you a guess even on what the top team ended up being out here. I didn't see another Sisu jersey, though, in the top 10, although I will admit we could miss that here.
Yeah, it's a good...
That's George.
Yeah, George came through
off
a little
the
ways
front
back.
there.
Yeah, off the front. It was a solid result there for top 10, but we're going to have to wait, actually, for the top 10 to come on through here. It's
interesting, Nathan, when you look at this, just kind of scanning, I don't see any team that you'd say, oh, well, there you go. 3 riders in that group. That ought to be enough points. All of the points at the finish line here today.
That's a good point. I'm not really seeing a whole lot of, that's true. We aren't seeing a big, like,
I mean, there's one. Is there even one Wahoo jersey? Did Wahoo even put anyone in the top 10? Which is stunning to me to see that. Deepak, who dominated through the season, didn't really dominate out here today. This became there was one Wahoo rider there. I apologize.
Yeah, one Wahoo rider.
Well, very interesting turn of events here on this one.
Definitely. Well, we're waiting for results to populate. They're not populating for us, so we're going to see if we can bring those in here as soon as we possibly can. If we are unable to get those, I will be pointing you over to WTRL.racing, but we can definitely bring those up from the live results over on Zwift Power to at least call them out for you. It does look like George Safranoskis, followed up by Rhinus Verhel of Abus Synergy. It's going to be Deepak Elite there with Fabian Davola, Ben Mayers for Art, Iker Morel, David Pacheco, Cameron Murr, Eric Hagen, Ross Fawcett, and Axel Kinberg. That's your top 10. Siri Pritchard, who we were chatting about a little bit, just outside in 11th place, it looks like. Dave, I'm seeing No Pins R3R. They are currently with 2 in the top 10, 4 in the top 20. So I think they've really pulled this one off out here today.
Yeah, well, we'll wait for more data when it's all official to make that call. But 4 in the top 20 sounds pretty good when you look at I don't think anybody else can talk about that. The points based on the number of riders in the race. So with 60 starters, 60 points for the first rider, 1 point for the final rider across the line out there. But that does wrap up this season 1, about a month-long break now until we'll be back racing in season 2 of this 3-season block. So this will bring us up into season 15 coming up now as we wrap up our 14th ZRL season. Amazing.
It is absolutely amazing. The next round's going to be starting soon. I do want to highlight, as we came into this race, this was the situation. And No Pins versus Zed Sunderpants was the situation. I think No Pins perhaps able to pull that off actually out here, as they did have those 4 in the top 20. I'm seeing Zed Sun with only 2 in the top 20. So I think that was decided out here today between them. Again, Deepak already with a very solid lead. So those were the top 3 positions I think decided out here today at this point. Now, if you do want to get involved in the Zwift Racing League, you can do so. You can join join a team anytime. It's open all season. Team registration opened on September 9th. Team registration closes for the next round on November 11th. So if you want to get into the next round, round number 2, you got a little bit of time, but let's get on it quickly so we're not kicking ourselves for not having a team. If you want to have one, racing starts the next day on November 12th for another 6 race series for round number 2. Head on over to WTRL.racing, Zwift Racing League. You can find the links over there on their website for that information. Now, your monthly racing monument is happening this week with the Elite ZWS Zwift World Series. Experience the thrill of racing on a global stage with the Zwift World Series. The best racers in the world in Zwift who have qualified to race are going to be going head to head for our next monument coming up this Thursday. Make sure to check that out. That will be live here on Zwift Live on all the channels we are currently live on here right now for the community racing that we do. Highlight Zwift World, Zwift.com/racing/lead, where you can find information about that. Next week, it's the Zwift Insider Community Racing Festival is kicked off, and there's community racing happening as it's a takeover of the Z Racing Series, where there are races on the hour every hour, and you can jump in and check them out. And next week, we are on Seaside Sprint for 3 laps. We will have Eric Schlange here as a co-host, and we will be talking all about what it is that is Zwift Insider and why it is such a pillar of the community. And it's going to be great to see Seaside Sprint 3 laps was actually a Rebel route that was made by Zwift Insider that ended up getting into game. So it's only fitting, I think, for that to be the guest, Dave, with Eric Schlange joining me next week. So send one out, but I think for a good reason to have Eric Schlange on, Dave. What'd you say?
Oh, man, he's one of my all-time favorite people in the Zwift community. Truly, what an asset he is. So an honor and a privilege to let him take over. I hope you'll have me back.
Yeah, we'll be back the following week for sure. We've got the Herd queued up, actually, the Herd Racing team. Then we've got Sisu queued up after that. And it's going to be some good stuff, Dave. So I'm excited for that as well. The Community Racing Festival and highlighting all of these awesome organizers that really have built this entire virtual sport, to be honest, Dave. I mean, just from a historical perspective, looking at where we've come to where we are here, 10 years of Zwift, it isn't without the community that this whole racing scene wouldn't exist, and all these awesome organizers we're going to be highlighting through that festival.
Yeah, the strength of the community is the one thing I never anticipated and has had the biggest impact in so many lives, including mine. Absolutely awesome. So, yeah, can't wait. And again, to go back to Zwift Insider, what a true valuable asset that website is. I mean, it's something that reference daily, to tell you the truth. So have fun next week. And Thursday's race is going to be lit. I cannot wait to see what happens out there. Quality of the racing's never been higher, without any doubt, out here on Zwift, no matter where you go. And it's tens and tens of thousands of people doing it as well. Quite a time.
100%. Well, I'm going to go and get ready for my racing later tonight. I'm excited to take on the course that we just saw. Thanks everybody for tuning in to our weekly community racing series. We'll see you next week for the Zwift Insider 3 laps on the Seaside Sprint, but that's going to be it for me and Dave for today. Appreciate everybody tuning in. And as always, ride on.